Welcome to your Week 2 coaching. As part of Close the Day, I have asked you to choose your top 3 priorities for the next day. I want to re-emphasize keeping your top 3 small and specific. Does your task involve multiple subtasks? Then each subtask should be considered one of your priorities. Also, when you consider the time a task is going to take, add a 50% buffer to this. So if you think something will take 1 hour to do, give yourself 1 hour and 30 minutes. Also, consider commute time if you are traveling somewhere. This will help you be more realistic with your expectations for the day. Remember, time, energy, and focus are finite. Overscheduling or trying to use more time than is available is only going to frustrate and discourage you. I would also like to expand on this idea of priorities, beginning with the fact that I've used the wrong form of the word. It should be used in its singular form, priority, because if something is a priority, then it takes precedence over anything else. You cannot have more than one priority. If you have 2 priorities, one has to take precedence over the other in order to come first in your day. You cannot attend to 2 priorities at the same time. So, when you write down the 3 tasks that you want to accomplish the next day, write down your top priority, what is most important for you to accomplish that day, and make that your first priority. Priorities can change because life changes and we change. That's okay. Nature shows us that change is inevitable, good, and necessary for growth. Just as there are different seasons of the year, we have different seasons of life. It's a good practice to take time periodically and reflect on your priorities for the season that you are enjoying now. What's important to you in this season? I'd like you to take some time now to pause the video and write down what your current priorities are. After you write them down, I would like you to number them in order of importance, with your top priority being number 1. Go ahead and pause the video now. Now that you have written your priorities, look at your list and ask, does my daily schedule and my daily habits reflect these priorities? Time, energy, and focus are some of our most valuable resources. Are you giving these to what matters most to you? Or are you allowing others and their priorities determine how you spend these resources? There is time for what matters most. If you aren't making time for what matters to you, ask yourself, what can I let go of or reprioritize in order to make space for what matters most to me? I'm not asking that you completely drop everything that is not a priority. To enjoy true peace and happiness, it's necessary to set your life in order and put things in their proper place. Sometimes that means letting it go completely. Sometimes that means saving it for later, or just giving it less of your time, energy, and focus. Here are some questions you can ask yourself to help you with this process of determining your priorities and discerning where they belong in the order of your life. First question, does this deserve my prime time, energy, and focus? If not, put it down lower on your priority list. Save it for a time when these resources are low but not depleted. Next, is the investment worth the return? Is the amount of time, energy, and focus you are giving this item going to bring you at least the same back in personal joy, fulfillment, and peace? Let's go back to the C+ and A effort analogy. Don't give your A efforts to C+ items. If doing this task takes more from you than it gives, then scale back or let it go. Your priorities are worth it. Let me give you an example of making something a priority because of the benefits, but not necessarily giving it your prime energy and focus. Weekly menu planning is a priority for me because feeding my family healthy food is important to me. Taking the time to plan my meals once a week pays off because it decreases my stress level and saves me time going to the grocery store multiple times per week or worrying about what to make each day. While this is something that I make a priority, it isn't something that deserves my prime time, energy, and focus. I give it a C+ effort, glancing at a list of family meals, looking at my calendar, and choosing one dinner recipe for what works best with my schedule for that day of the week. The system took a little time to set up, but now it takes me less than 20 minutes to plan my meals and write my grocery list for the week. On the day that I do this planning, it isn't my #1 priority. I usually batch it with other insignificant tasks when my energy and focus are low. This allows me to invest my high energy and focus time on other things that matter more to me. Again, invest your high energy and focus time on tasks that will bring you the greatest return. Just because you can doesn't mean you should or have to. For example, I can hand make all those Christmas gifts, but if the time and effort it takes is going to bring me more stress than joy, then it's time to adjust. For example, maybe I can make just a few and find a different way to send Christmas cheer that will not compromise my ability to feel the spirit of the season. In sum, if doing this task takes more from you than it gives, then scale back or let it go. Your priorities, your peace and happiness are depending on you giving them the time, energy, and focus they deserve. Keep these concepts in mind as you make your top 3 lists each evening. I have asked you to divide a small notebook where you are going to write down your top 3. This belongs in the front of your notebook. However, there's often more than 3 things that need to be done each day. In another section of your notebook, you can write down the tasks that go beyond this 3. Label this section Tomorrow. Things that need to be done soon, but don't have to be done right away. For things that do have an upcoming deadline, put a star next to them. You can feel at peace knowing that you've written them down and you can easily refer to them as needed. You can also section off another part of your notebook as a master task list for things you would like to do in the future but that don't have a screaming deadline. Your mind can again be at peace knowing that you will refer to these lists as needed. But keeping these items on separate lists will help you focus on your top 3 each day. The top 3 is in the front of your notebook. It's what you will mainly refer to. Ignore those other lists until you are done with your top 3. Remember, attending to the top 3 is going to bring you the peace and happiness you seek. Don't let the less important, insignificant tasks distract you and rob you of that peace. I also want you to think of the extra tasks on the tomorrow or master task lists as bonuses for if you have a space after you have finished your top 3. Aren't bonuses great? Just remember, bonuses are just that. They are not necessary. Before you dive into those other tasks, be mindful of how you are feeling. Check in with yourself. How is your energy and stress level? Your connection with yourself? Your connections with family members? Assess these before moving on to bonus tasks. Limiting the day's demands is important for creating the space necessary for cultivating relationships and dealing with life's curveballs. There's always tomorrow, so if you feel drained or stressed, put it off until then. Another consideration to keep in mind is your current season of life and the season of the year. Seasons of life. Depending on your circumstance, working, going to school, etc., the top 3 tasks may become your top 1. As a student and a mom, I have learned that since most of my time is devoted to school, in this season I must limit myself to 1 home or family task and 1 personal task each day. And most of these tasks cannot take a lot of time. If you have young children, just getting a shower in before noon can feel like a major accomplishment, and it is. Depending on the age of your children, you may want to limit yourself to 1 daily or home task each day. And for personal goals, consider the BFG principle I learned from Jenny Layton. Choose one big, fat goal you want to accomplish that week or that month. Then, as small pockets of time open up here and there, you can work towards that one goal. In this way, you're not expecting yourself to accomplish it all in one day. Mothers with young children rarely have a big block of open time in their day, but 10 to 15-minute blocks of time may open up here and there, and you can use those to work towards your weekly goal. Remember, the small steps lead to big results. It just may take a little longer, and that's okay. Attending to your family's needs and your relationships with them first, then wisely using small pockets of time for personal goals is part of doing things in wisdom and order. Let's take a lesson from Mother Nature when it comes to seasons of the year. There are personal seasons and family seasons. The fall is a great season for personal organization and goal setting. Then the holidays come. This is a family season, and it's important to make that shift and go with the flow. You aren't going to let go of your foundational routines, but do consider that you may be using the express version of them more often, and trying to work on bigger personal goals and projects at this time may very well lead to conflict and stress. Give yourself permission to set those aside as needed, knowing that your personal season will come back, usually in January. Summer is another family season for many of us, and it isn't usually a great time for working on big personal goals. Enjoy each season for what it has to offer. When I feel my tension and stress level rise, I have learned to evaluate what I am trying to do and consider if I need to reorder it for another time. As you practice this type of reflection, you'll learn when to let go of what your current season doesn't allow for and embrace it for what it is, knowing that life ebbs and flows, and if something is truly important, another opportunity will open up later. In closing, let's review the guidelines for picking your top 3 priorities for the next day. Get specific, be realistic, and check in with your mood, energy level, and connections before you go on to bonus tasks.